The story of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael, a family that shaped nations. Long ago, in the lands between Mesopotamia and Canaan, there lived a man named Abraham. He was known for his great wealth, vast flocks of sheep and goats, servants, and wide stretches of land. But more than his possessions, he was remembered for his faith in one God, a belief that set him apart in his time. Abraham had two sons. His firstborn was Ishmael, the child of Hagar, a servant in the household. Ishmael grew strong and skilled as a herder, guiding flocks across open pastures, a son of the wilderness who thrived under the sun and stars. His second son was Isaac, born later to Abraham's wife Sarah. Isaac was different in nature, quieter, more thoughtful, often found at his father's side, listening and learning. Though they shared the same father, the two sons came from different mothers, and that difference shaped their destinies. In the household, tension grew. Sarah, protective of her son Isaac, feared that Ishmael might one day claim too much. Hagar, Ishmael's mother, carried her own hopes for her child. In time, Ishmael and his mother were sent away, beginning a life apart from Abraham's tents. Tradition remembers this separation as the root of two great peoples. Isaac remained in Canaan, and through him came the line of the Israelites, later known as the Jewish people. From his descendants arose stories of Jacob, Moses, David, and Solomon, the people who built kingdoms, temples, and laws in the land of Israel and Judah. Ishmael, meanwhile, is remembered as the father of Arab tribes, and in Islamic tradition his descendants would lead to the Prophet Muhammad. Thus, from one father, Abraham, came two sons, and from two sons came two lineages, bound by blood yet divided by time and distance. Both claimed inheritance from Abraham, both carried his faith in the one God, and both spread across lands that would one day become central to world history. As the years passed, the sons of Abraham grew into men, and from them came tribes that carried their names. Isaac, the quiet scholar, remained in the land of Canaan. His son Jacob, later called Israel, became the father of 12 sons. These 12 sons grew into the 12 tribes of Israel, shepherds and farmers who spread across the highlands. They were not mighty kings at first, but families bound by covenant, worshiping the God of their father Abraham. In time, their story led through hardship in Egypt, where they lived and labored for generations, before their great deliverance, the Exodus. Guided by Moses, they returned to Canaan, settling in the land they called their own. From this line came leaders, prophets, and eventually kings like David and Solomon. It was through Isaac's descendants that the people known as the Israelites, later the Jewish people, took shape. Ishmael, the strong herder, was said to be the father of 12 princes of his own. His descendants spread across the deserts to the south and east, becoming skilled with bow and horse, masters of the caravan routes that crossed Arabia. In Jewish and Christian traditions, Ishmael became the ancestor of Arab tribes. In Islamic tradition, he was honored as the forefather of the Prophet Muhammad, who would arise centuries later in Mecca. Where Isaac's children grew into a settled nation, Ishmael's children became a people of wide horizons, bound to the desert winds and trade that linked the Near East to Africa and beyond. Thus, two lineages took two different paths. Isaac's children rooted in Canaan, building villages, temples, and kingdoms. Ishmael's children ranging wide, shaping tribes and cultures across the deserts. Yet both carried the memory of Abraham, their father, his faith, his covenant, and his God. In this way, two brothers once separated gave rise to peoples who would both lay claim to a heritage in the same land, a claim that echoes through history even until today. From Isaac's line, the tribes of Israel grew stronger. No longer only shepherds in scattered hills, they began to unite under leaders called judges. And in time, the people longed for a king. The first was Saul, but it was David, the shepherd-turned-warrior, who gave Israel its heart. David made Jerusalem the capital, a city sacred to his people. His son, Solomon, built a temple of stone and cedar, its golden walls said to shine like the sun itself. For the first time, the Israelites were not just tribes, but a kingdom rooted in the land, with faith and identity bound to Jerusalem. Yet kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall. After Solomon, the unity fractured. The land split in two: Israel in the north and Judah in the south. While prophets called the people back to faith, empires grew stronger around them. The Assyrians came first, conquering the north in 722 BCE and scattering its tribes. Then the Babylonians swept in, destroying Jerusalem in 586 BCE, tearing down the temple and carrying leaders into exile. For the Israelites, this was a turning point. Though the land was lost, their identity endured. In exile, they clung to their covenant, their scriptures, and the memory of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They began to understand that their strength was not only in kings and stone walls, but in faith, law, and tradition that no conqueror could destroy. Meanwhile, the children of Ishmael roamed the deserts. Their tribes spread wide across Arabia. They were traders and herders, carrying goods between Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Levant. Though their story unfolded along different paths, the descendants of both brothers continued to live within reach of the same deserts, mountains, and rivers, never entirely separate, never entirely one. After the Romans scattered the children of Isaac, Jewish life flourished in some places but was bitterly tested in others. In the lands of Eastern Europe and Russia, Jews often lived as outsiders, allowed to remain but rarely welcomed as equals. In the Russian Empire, they were confined to the Pale of Settlement, a vast region stretching across today's Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania, and Belarus. Here they built vibrant communities, shtetls filled with schools, synagogues, and markets. Yet, life was fragile. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, waves of pogroms, violent riots swept through towns and villages. Homes and synagogues were burned, families attacked, and many killed. To survive, some Jews hid their religious practices, worshiping in secret or disguising their identity. Others emigrated to America, to Western Europe, and to Palestine, carrying with them both their suffering and their hope. Still others stayed, trying to live quietly under rulers who often treated them with suspicion or hostility. Out of this world of fear and faith was born the dream of a safe homeland. Zionism, the movement to return to the land of Israel, drew strength from these years of hardship. For Jews in Russia and surrounding lands, the promise of Zion was not only spiritual, it was practical. A place where they might live openly as themselves without fear of violence or exile. Meanwhile, the children of Ishmael, the Arabs of the Middle East, did not live as strangers in their own land. They built towns, cultivated fields, and traded across deserts that had always been theirs. Unlike Isaac's descendants, who longed for return, Ishmael's children never left. Their lives were bound to the soil of Arabia and Palestine, generation after generation, even as they welcomed travelers and merchants from afar. Thank you for watching. Please join me for the epic conclusion of this tale of two brothers whose lives and lineages affect us even today. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story.